Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cosmic Cassie, and thanks for joining me on my podcast. I haven't posted in a little bit, and I keep thinking of things that I want to talk about with you guys and post, but I've been pretty entranced in diving into a rabbit hole, you can call it. So I wanted to share some interesting things that I found and some synchronicities that I think are letting me know that what I'm looking into, what I'm exploring and trying to unravel is valid, it's true, it's real. So it's not just things that I'm doing and creating patterns, they're actually real things. So I'm going to start from the top. And if enough of you request like a visual copy of this, I'll post a PDF so you can actually see it yourself. So I'll try to explain it the best way that I think I can. But what I've been doing is, and I actually did this months ago, and I had the poll to come back around to it and dive deeper into it. And I think I have a better understanding as to why that is, because now I have more tools and knowledge and resources that I was able to use to kind of overcome the blocks that I experienced the last time I dived into this. But starting from months ago, like last year, towards the end of the year, I had this idea that maybe there's something around the chakras. And I know the chakras are everywhere and they mean so much. But my idea was, what are those frequencies and how do the colors match those frequencies? Like, I really wanted to dive into this and understand it completely, understand how they create like hertz for colors and how that is created for each chakra and things like that. So, on my discovery to really understand this in an in depth way, what I saw and realized is that there is a very specific difference in each chakra frequency number. So and it creates a pattern. That distance between each one actually creates a pattern. And I looked at that pattern and I thought, okay, well, if I can see the pattern, that means I can extend the frequencies, right? I can go beyond the chakras, and maybe that means something. So I started to go beyond like the crown chakra and create frequency, like the actual number of each of these chakras, not really knowing where this would lead. And I ended up doing that until I got to essentially like I think it was 144 or something like that. And that's kind of where I got stuck because I couldn't understand. I saw a lot of other patterns within the numbers and the frequencies, but I got stuck because I couldn't really figure out what it meant. So this time around, when I circled back around to it, I kind of picked up where I left off and looked at the patterns, and then I had an idea of, well, what if I kind of like separated them incorrectly. So what I was originally doing is I would separate them in sequences or groups of 9. So 1 through 9, and then I would have, 10 through 18, and then, moving on. But it was these groups of 9 because that's how the patterns laid out, was in groups of nines. Interestingly enough, when you minimize um, the difference, that the number difference between each of those chakras, it creates this uh, reoccurring pattern of 369. I've always been drawn to that specific number sequence before I even learned about like Nikola Tesla and the power, the theory behind 369. That's always been a sequence of numbers that I've always been drawn to since I was a kid. So I was like, this is significant, right? So now when I circle back around to it, I'm like, well, because of all the other research and knowledge and rabbit holes that I've dug down, what if it's meant to be divided by tens? And because I'm currently learning a lot more about Hebrew, the language itself, specifically the alphabet, and how that relates and corresponds to many other things around language. And in Hebrew, if you don't know, the alphabet, each letter of the alphabet, which is 22 total, each letter of the alphabet holds a numerical meaning, which means you can take a word and create a numerical value for that word, for that sentence. You can quite literally create the numbers that you want to have within a sentence by only using words that match the numbers that you want it to have, right? So frequency resonates with math when it comes to language. And because I've been on that journey, when I circled back around to this, it got me thinking, well, what about zero? Why does zero not show up? You know, it starts at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we have 7 chakras. And the interesting thing is, when you look at the frequency of the chakras, when I follow that pattern to extend it, I can also go back. I can go backwards, and there's 2 unnamed, unrecognized frequencies before you get to the root chakra. And I'm purposely trying to stay away from the literature and the information out there about how we have all these huge chakras and it's like 20 chakras or something. And I'm focusing just on the 7 chakras, right? So I noticed that. And again, because of all the other information that I've had from the last time to this time, I decide to sequence it out in 10s instead of 9s. And one of the interesting things that happened is I was looking up other things. Sometimes I'd multitask with my rabbit holes. And I was led to a video randomly when I was getting blocked. And I was like, man, this is a bummer. I'm seeing all these sequences, these patterns, these reoccurring numbers, and I can't figure out the significance of them. And I took a break and I actually went on Unified, which is like a TV app series thing. And I watched a specific video, and it was about Jason Shirka, and he does like stuff with the pyramid code and with, the light system, TLS and stuff like that. So I think it's very interesting and I follow it. And the specific video that I watched, I ended up hearing him mention something about 10 dimensions and how they're called the same brain waves that science uses the term of brain waves, like beta, alpha, delta, gamma. I think there's one more in there. And that triggered me because at some point in my process, I started to compare the number patterns that I was seeing to brain waves because I felt like there was a connection there. So then he kind of said that. And I looked up an earlier video that he had posted years ago where he actually talked about the dimensions, and his understanding that he was given was that there's 10 dimensions. They're divided into 10 sections, and we only know about the first 5. So part of my process was actually when I divided it into those 10 sections, I felt very strongly that they were each dimensions, but each section is divided into 10 separate pieces. Just looking at the pattern, that's how I divided it. And so there's actually a pattern that will show you why it makes sense to divide it into 10 sections per sequence, per dimension, and it adds up to 100, interestingly enough. So I went back to the drawing board and I laid it out more and start looking at more about how it resonates with the brain frequencies. And I kind of went back to that. And the other concept that I've been looking at is as above, so below. And so what if the other 5 dimensions are a direct reflection of the first 5? Again, the patterns that show up in the way that I did this actually would prove that. They would solve that. And so the last piece that I'm trying to put together, or at least the piece that I'm trying to put together right now, maybe not the last one, is looking at those frequencies. And when using original languages like Arabic and Hebrew, how do we take those frequencies and create words, intentional words from those frequencies that add up to the value of those frequencies, and then we can create sentences and statements. We can go beyond just a word, right? And it's easy to do that part, but the hard part, the challenging piece here is understanding the significance of each of these frequencies and the power it holds when you take that frequency and turn it into a word. What does that word now do? What was the power of that word now do? So it's trying to understand and identify the power, the reason, the purpose of each of these frequencies, because there's 10 pieces for each section, and in each piece is 10 frequencies, right? So that's kind of what I've been up to lately. So if you've heard of this, if you think of anything that kind of resonates with what I'm talking about, definitely share that information, comment. If you guys want a visual aid of what I've done so far, I'm happy to share it. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. So if you have any questions, let me know as well, or anything to add, and I'll catch you guys sooner than later. Bye.